The millionaire's son was in danger because of the stepmother, until a street girl did something that rain beat hard against the office windows on the 12th floor. Henry Alistair didn't even lift his eyes from the computer screen. Numbers danced before him, contracts being closed, investors awaiting responses, decisions that would move millions. It was like this every day. Uninterrupted work, endless meetings, last-minute trips. He had built an empire in the technology sector, transforming a modest startup into one of the most promising companies in the United States. His name was cited in business magazines, in lectures, at charity events. Henry Alistair was synonymous with success. But there was a price for all this, a price he preferred not to calculate. His cell phone vibrated on the mahogany desk, a notification from Leah's school. Henry sighed and opened the message without much interest. It was the third time that month that the pedagogical coordination had requested a meeting. Always the same old story about Leah's behavior, about her declining grades, about the need for greater parental involvement. Henry typed an automatic reply, promising to reschedule for the following week, knowing he would probably cancel again. Leah was 6 years old, a little girl with brown hair and eyes that seemed to carry a sadness, too deep for her age. Ever since Lauren left 2 years ago, Henry couldn't look at his daughter without feeling a pang in his chest. It was as if every feature of her face, every gesture, every shy smile was a painful reminder of what he had lost. So he did what he thought best. He worked more. He built a solid future for her. He ensured she would never lack anything. But presence, time, attention, those things always came later. The office door opened, and Mark, his assistant, entered with a stack of documents. Henry, the charity event is tonight, confirmed for 8 o'clock at the Grand Hotel Ballroom. Henry nodded without taking his eyes off the spreadsheet. I've prepared your tuxedo, and Patricia called a little while ago, said she'll meet you directly at the event. Patricia. The name brought a slight smile to Henry's face. They had met 3 months ago at one of those corporate events. She was elegant, articulate, knew exactly what to say in every situation. A woman who understood the world he lived in, who made no emotional demands, who fit perfectly into the frantic routine of an entrepreneur. Patricia Moore was everything. Henry thought he needed at that moment uncomplicated companionship. Great. Tell the driver I'll be leaving here in an hour. Mark nodded and left. Henry finally leaned back in his chair, massaging his temples. His headache throbbed, a sign that he had skipped lunch again. He picked up his phone and dialed home. It rang 4 times before someone answered. Hello? The voice was Sonia's, the nanny who had been taking care of Leah for 2 months. Before her, there had been 5 others. None stayed long. Sonia, how is Leah? She's fine, Mr. Alistair. She ate well at lunch. She's in her room now, drawing. And her homework? I made her do it before lunch. She was a bit distracted, but she finished. Good. I'll be home late today. I have an event. Get her dinner ready and put her to bed at the usual time. Yes, sir. Henry hung up, brief, functional. No room for questions. It was easier that way. If he allowed any kind of closeness, any deeper conversation about Leah, he would have to admit how much he was failing as a father. And that wasn't a truth he was ready to face. That evening, the Grand Hotel Ballroom was filled with well-dressed people, champagne glasses circulating, lively conversations about investments and opportunities. Henry greeted dozens of acquaintances, shook hands, smiled for photos. Patricia appeared wearing a navy blue dress that enhanced her light eyes. She approached, kissed him lightly on the cheek, and linked her arm through his with an impressive naturalness. You look handsome, she said, adjusting his tie with an affectionate gesture. You too. They circulated the event together. Patricia knew how to talk to everyone, praised just enough, laughed at the jokes of older investors, showed genuine interest in the stories the wives told. Henry watched, fascinated. It was exactly what he needed, someone to fill the void without asking difficult questions. Weeks passed at this pace. Henry and Patricia started seeing each other more frequently. Dinners at expensive restaurants, weekends at resorts, quick trips to New York City. She never complained about his busy schedule, never pressured for more time. She was perfect, perhaps too perfect. One day, During lunch at Henry's penthouse, Patricia casually mentioned that her apartment was being renovated. It would only be for a few weeks, she said. Henry offered one of the guest rooms without thinking twice. After all, the house had plenty of space, and Leah would barely notice. The girl lived cooped up in her own room, drawing or watching cartoons. Patricia moved in on a Friday. She arrived with 3 large suitcases and a radiant smile. Sonia greeted her with professional courtesy and showed her the room. Leah was in the living room when Patricia came down for dinner. The girl looked up from her sketchbook and froze. Patricia knelt down to her height, extending her hand. "Hi, Leah, I'm Patricia. Your dad and I are friends. I'll be staying here for a little while. I hope we get along." Leah didn't respond. She just looked at the extended hand as if it was something dangerous. After a few awkward seconds, she went back to drawing, completely ignoring the woman's presence. Patricia stood up, the smile still plastered on her face, but with a different glint in her eyes. "She's shy," Henry said, entering the room with 2 glasses of wine. "Of course, it's normal. We'll get to know each other gradually." But Leah didn't seem interested in getting to know Patricia. In the following weeks, the girl avoided her stepmother whenever possible. She left rooms when Patricia entered, didn't answer when called, refused any attempt at rapprochement. Henry attributed it all to natural jealousy. It was expected for a child to react this way to the presence of a new female figure in the house. Sonia, however, began to notice strange things, small details that didn't fit. Leah, who had previously been a quiet but obedient child, started having episodes of inexplicable crying. She woke up in the middle of the night screaming. She refused food. At school, the situation worsened. Teachers reported that Leah was increasingly isolated, didn't play with other children, spent recesses alone leaning against the wall. One afternoon, Sonia noticed a bruise on Leah's arm. When she asked what had happened, the girl mumbled something about having fallen. Days later, it was a scratch on her neck. Then, an injury on her leg. Always with vague explanations, trips, silly accidents. Sonia tried to talk to Henry, but he was traveling. When she finally managed to speak to him by phone, Henry said that children were clumsy and that she didn't need to worry so much. Patricia, for her part, became increasingly helpful. She offered to pick Leah up from school, prepared special snacks, bought presents. But the girl remained distant, almost hostile. One night during dinner, Patricia commented aloud that perhaps Leah needed psychological support. "She's very withdrawn. She barely speaks. Maybe it would be good to seek professional help." Henry considered the suggestion. It made sense. Leah really wasn't doing well. Maybe it was unprocessed grief. Maybe his absence. Maybe all of it combined. "I'll check with her pediatrician," he replied, but he never got around to it. There was always something more urgent, a meeting that couldn't be postponed, a contract that needed reviewing, problem that only he could solve. Meanwhile, inside that large, too-silent house, something was unfolding in the shadows, something Henry, blinded by work and guilt, couldn't see. And Leah, small and defenseless, had no voice to report it. Outside, hidden among the garden bushes, a thin figure watched. Luna Oliver was 15 and had been living on the streets for 3 years. She knew every corner of that upscale Riverbend Estates neighborhood. She knew where security cameras didn't reach, which houses had dogs, which residents called the police at the slightest sign of suspicious movement. The Allister mansion was one of her favorite observation points. Not because she planned to steal, Luna wasn't a thief, but because there, in that immense garden, she could sleep peacefully some nights, protected by the high walls. That's how she started to notice. Small details, strange movements, muffled screams coming from inside the house, and a little girl with brown hair who sometimes appeared at the second-floor window, with a look Luna knew all too well, the look of someone who was afraid. The same look she herself had when she still lived with her mother before running away. Luna didn't know exactly what was happening inside, but her instinct screamed that something was wrong, very wrong. Weeks passed and the routine in the Allister mansion settled into a pattern that seemed normal to outside observers. Henry left early and returned late. Patricia had taken on the role of mistress of the house with impressive efficiency. She reorganized schedules, dismissed Sonia, claiming the nanny was creating a harmful emotional dependency in Leah, and began to personally care for the girl. In Henry's eyes, this was a positive sign. Patricia was dedicating herself, trying to build a maternal relationship with her stepdaughter. But the truth, unfolding within those walls, was completely different. One Tuesday morning, Leah woke up and came down for breakfast. Patricia was in the kitchen making pancakes. The sweet smell filled the air. The girl sat at the table in silence, eyes downcast. Patricia placed the plate in front of her with a smile. "Eat everything. You're too thin." Leah picked up her fork, but her hand trembled slightly. Patricia noticed, and her smile widened. But there was something cold in that gesture, something that didn't reach her eyes. "Aren't you going to eat? I made it with so much care." The girl put a piece in her mouth and chewed slowly. Patricia sat on the other side of the table, watching her every move. The silence was heavy, oppressive. When Leah tried to get up, having eaten only half, Patricia raised her hand. "Sit down. I haven't finished talking to you." Leah obeyed, her body rigid. "Your father is very busy, isn't he? Working to give you the best of everything. And how do you repay him? By being rude to me, not answering when I speak, ignoring me. Do you think that's fair?" The girl didn't answer. "I'm talking to you, Leah." "Sorry?" The voice came out almost inaudible. "Sorry for what?" "Sorry for being rude." Patricia stood up and walked to the girl, kneeling beside her. Up close, her voice was a sharp whisper. "You're going to learn to respect me. Understood? Because I can make your life much harder, or much easier. It depends on you." Leah nodded, tears starting to stream silently. Patricia wiped one away with her thumb, still smiling. "Good. Now finish your food and go get ready for school." The girl ate the rest of the pancakes even without hunger, each forkful feeling like a stone. When she finally managed to get up, she ran to her room and locked the door. She sat on the floor, hugging her knees, trying to understand why that woman treated her that way when her father wasn't around, and why she couldn't tell him. Outside the mansion, hidden in the shadow of a leafy tree, Luna watched. She had spent the night there, in an abandoned construction at the back of the neighboring property. It was a skeleton of a house that was never finished, with half-built walls and a precarious roof. But it served as shelter. From there, Luna had a privileged view of the Alistairs' kitchen, and that morning, through the half-open window, she saw everything. She couldn't hear the words, but Leah's body said it all. The slumped posture, the trembling, the tears, and the blonde woman, kneeling beside her with that smile that didn't match the scene. Luna felt something churn in her stomach. She knew that kind of behavior. She had seen it before. She had lived it before. Her own mother had that same way, sweet in public, cruel in private, and no one ever believed her when she tried to tell. The teenager moved away from the window and returned to her hiding place. She needed to think. She couldn't just invade the house and confront the woman. She would be arrested, but she also couldn't stand by and watch that girl suffer. There had to be a way. Meanwhile, Henry was in New York City, closing one of the biggest contracts of his career. The meeting had been a success. Satisfied investors, impressive numbers, promise of international expansion. He should have been celebrating, but something bothered him, an uncomfortable feeling he couldn't name. He picked up his phone and called home. Patricia answered on the second ring. "Hi, love, is everything okay there?" "Everything's great. I just dropped Leah off at school. She was in a good mood today." "That's good. And how has she been reacting lately? Still very withdrawn?" "Oh, you know how it is. Some days are better, some are worse, but I'm trying to be patient. Building trust takes time." Henry felt a relief that didn't make sense. "You're amazing, Patricia. I don't know what I'd do without you." "We're in this together, darling. When are you coming back?" "Tomorrow morning. I have a presentation. Here in the afternoon, but then I'll catch the 8 o'clock flight." "Perfect. I'll prepare your favorite dinner." Henry hung up, smiling. Patricia was taking care of everything. He could finally relax. Or at least, that's what he wanted to believe. At school, Leah spent the day like a ghost. She sat at the back of the class, didn't raise her hand, didn't participate in group activities. During recess, she found an isolated corner near the library and stayed there, hugging her backpack. One of the teachers, Clarice, approached slowly. "Leah, don't you want to play with your classmates?" The girl shook her head. "Are you feeling well?" "I am." The teacher knelt beside her, trying to catch her eye. "You know you can talk to me about anything, right? If something's bothering you." Leah looked up quickly. For a second it seemed like she was going to say something, but then the fear returned. What the blonde lady had said echoed in her mind. What if she told and no one believed her? What if the woman found out? What if it got worse? "It's okay, teacher. I'm just tired," Clarice sighed. This wasn't the first time she had. Noticed strange signs, the unexplained bruises, the change in behavior, the weight loss. But without concrete evidence or a clear report, her hands were tied. She could only continue observing and trying to create a safe environment for the girl to open up. In the afternoon, when Patricia picked Leah up from school, the teacher tried to strike up a conversation. "How are things at home? Leah seems a bit quieter lately." Patricia smiled with rehearsed perfection. "Oh, it's a phase, you know how it is, she's still getting used to me. But we're making progress, don't worry." Clarice didn't feel reassured, but nodded politely. She watched as Patricia held Leah's hand a little too firmly and led her to the car. The girl got in without protest, but her shoulders were tense. On the way back, Patricia drove in silence. When they arrived home, she parked and turned to Leah. "The teacher spoke to me today. Want to know something? If you go around telling stories to others, you'll regret it. Your father won't believe you. He loves me. And if you try to push me away from him, I'll leave and he'll be even sadder. Do you want that? Do you want to see your father unhappy?" Leah shook her head, tears streaming. "I didn't lie." "No? Then why did he go to work so calmly? Why didn't he stay here to protect you from me? Because he doesn't believe you, you foolish child." Leah wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't obey. "Now go up to your room and stay there until I call you for dinner, and don't even think about coming out or doing anything silly. Understood?" Leah nodded and ran upstairs, locking herself in her room. She threw herself on the bed and cried, until she had no more tears. Patricia was right. Her father didn't believe her. No one believed her. She was alone. Outside, in the shadow of a tree, Luna witnessed the scene through the open living room window. The sound was muffled, but she read enough lips to understand the gist of the conversation. The woman had waited for the man to leave to show her true face, and the girl was completely helpless. Luna clenched her fists. She needed to act. But how? If she broke into the house, she would be arrested. If she called the police, what would she say? That she saw an argument through a window? That the woman spoke loudly to her stepdaughter? It wasn't a crime. There wasn't enough evidence. She needed more. She needed to catch something undeniable. Hours passed. Luna stayed there, watching. She saw when Patricia went up to Leah's room to call her for dinner. She saw when they came down together to the kitchen, and then she saw something that made her heart pound. Patricia was preparing dinner. She picked up 2 plates and started serving, pasta with sauce. But when it was time to serve Leah, she opened a cabinet and took out a jar. She read the label. And then, with deliberate movements, she took a spoon and spread something over the girl's food. Luna couldn't see exactly what it was, but the way the woman did it, quickly hiding the jar, looking over her shoulder to make sure she was alone, was suspicious. Luna took out her cell phone and started recording. The angle wasn't perfect, but you could see the woman furtively messing with Leah's plate. Then she called the girl for dinner. Leah came down the stairs slowly and sat at the table. Patricia placed the plate in front of her with a sweet smile. "Eat everything. I made it with special care for you." Leah looked at the food. Something about it didn't seem right. The smell was different. "I'm not hungry." "I don't care. You're going to eat." "But I really don't want to." Patricia leaned over the table, her voice low and threatening. "Eat now, or I swear you'll regret it." Leah picked up the fork with a trembling hand. She put some of the pasta in her mouth. She chewed. And then her face began to change. Her eyes widened. Her breathing became difficult. "What's wrong?" Patricia asked, but there was something in her tone that wasn't surprise. It was expectation. Leah put her hand to her throat. It was starting to swell. Her breath whistled. She tried to get up, but stumbled. Patricia watched her, motionless. "Oh, you must be having some kind of reaction. How strange." But it wasn't strange. Patricia knew exactly what was happening. She had put peanut butter in Leah's food. She knew about the girl's severe allergy. She had kept that jar hidden for weeks, waiting for the right moment. And now, with Henry away and the house empty, it was the perfect opportunity. Leah fell from the chair, gasping. Her lips began to turn purple. Patricia calmly got up and went to the living room, picking up her phone. She dialed a number, but it wasn't emergency services. It was for a friend. "Hi, darling. Yes, I'm calling to confirm lunch tomorrow." While she chatted calmly, Leah writhed on the kitchen floor, struggling to breathe. Outside, Luna saw everything. She saw the girl choke. She saw her fall. She saw the woman ignoring her, talking on the phone as if nothing was happening. And then, without thinking, she acted. She ran to the back door. It was locked. She picked up a stone and broke the glass. The noise made Patricia drop the phone and run to see what it was. But Luna was already inside. She ran up the stairs 2 steps at a time, desperately searching for Leah's room. She knew allergic children often had emergency injections. She had to find it. She had to find it now. Patricia screamed, "Who's there? I'm calling the police." But Luna didn't stop. She found the room. She rummaged through the bedside, table, drawers, nothing. Then she saw the school backpack. She opened it with trembling hands, and there it was, a case with an adrenaline pen, an EpiPen. She grabbed it and ran downstairs. Patricia was in the hallway, holding a vase ready to attack. But Luna ignored her, running past her and straight to the kitchen. Leah was almost unconscious, her lips completely purple. Luna knelt beside her, removed the EpiPen cap, and plunged the needle into the girl's thigh, straight through her clothes, holding it for 10 seconds as she had seen in online videos some time ago. Then, she tossed the device aside and turned Leah onto her side, wiping the foam that was forming at her mouth. Hold on, little girl. Breathe." Patricia appeared at the kitchen door, pale. She realized she had lost control of the situation. She picked up her phone and finally called emergency services. "I need an ambulance. It's urgent. My stepdaughter is having a severe allergic reaction." Her voice was perfect, concerned, scared. The performance of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. Then she hung up and looked at Luna. "Who are you? What are you doing in my house?" "Saving her from you." "I don't know what you're talking about. Get out of here before I really call the police." "Go ahead and call. I recorded everything." Patricia grew even paler. Luna held up her phone. "I recorded you putting something in her food. I recorded you letting her die while you talked on the phone. So go ahead and call the police. I want them to come." The ambulance siren began to sound in the distance. Leah was starting to breathe better, the adrenaline taking effect. Luna remained by her side, holding her small hand. "It's okay, you'll be fine." The paramedics arrived and took over. They asked questions. Patricia said it was a terrible accident, that she didn't know how peanuts had gotten into the food. Luna remained silent, just watching. She knew that if she spoke now, without organized evidence, without the girl's father present, no one would believe her. She was just a street teenager against a rich, articulate woman. So she waited. She waited until they took Leah to the hospital. And then she left through the same broken window she had entered, taking with her the cell phone with all the recordings. She needed to find a way to get that into the right hands. Henry returned from New York City on a rainy morning. His driver picked him up at the airport, and he arrived home around 10 o'clock. Patricia greeted him at the door with a warm kiss and fresh coffee. The house was impeccable, smelling of freshly baked cake. Everything seemed perfect. "Is Leah still at school?" "Yes. I'll pick her up in 2 hours." "How has she been while I was away?" "Good. A little quiet, but nothing out of the ordinary. I think she's starting to get used to me." Henry smiled, relieved. He went up to his room to change and shower. While he was in the shower, his cell phone rang. It was the school secretary. He answered, still wrapped in a towel. "Mr. Alistair, this is Julia from the Pedagogical Coordination. We urgently need to schedule a meeting to discuss Leah's development." "Did something happen?" "Nothing specific, but we are concerned. She has been exhibiting behaviors that caught our attention. Isolation, declining performance, crying episodes. We need to align a support strategy with you." Henry sighed. Always the same thing, the school dramatizing. "All right, my assistant will contact you to schedule." "Mr. Alistair, with all due respect, this meeting has been rescheduled 3 times. We need you to prioritize this." The coordinator's firm tone caught him by surprise. Henry agreed to attend the following week and hung up, feeling a growing unease. Maybe he really was neglecting important signs. Maybe it was time to pay more attention. In the afternoon, when Leah arrived home from school, Henry was in the living room. The girl stopped at the door when she saw him, surprised. "Hi, sweetie, come here." Leah approached slowly. Henry opened his arms and she nestled into his embrace, small and fragile. "I missed you." "Me too, Dad." "How's school?" "Good." "Have you made any new friends?" Leah shook her head. "Why not?" "I don't know. No one wants to play with me." Henry frowned. That wasn't normal. Leah had always been a sociable child. "And with Patricia? Are you two getting along?" The girl tensed in his arms. Henry felt the change, but before he could ask anything, Patricia entered the room, carrying juice and cookies. "Look at the delicious snack I prepared for you." She placed the tray on the coffee table and sat next to Henry, running her hand through Leah's hair with a gesture that seemed affectionate, but made the girl stiffen even more. "We were talking about school," Henry said. "Leah told me she hasn't made any friends." "Oh, really?" Patricia tilted her head, feigning concern. "Darling, why didn't you tell me that? We can arrange a play date at our house, invite some classmates." Leah didn't respond, her eyes fixed on the floor. "Daughter, Patricia is talking to you." "I don't want to." "What do you mean you don't want to? It would be fun." I don't want to," Leah repeated, her voice louder. Henry was disconcerted. That defiant tone was not characteristic of his daughter. "Leah, don't speak like that." The girl abruptly stood up and ran to her room, slamming the door. Henry looked at Patricia, not knowing what to do. "I'm sorry, I don't know what got into her." Patricia smiled understandingly. "Don't worry, she's going through a difficult phase. She lost her mother. You work a lot. Now there's a new person in the house. It's a lot of change to process. We just need to be patient." Henry nodded, grateful for her understanding. Patricia always knew what to say, always had the right answer. It was comforting. "I'll go up and talk to her." "Let her calm down first. I'll go up with dinner in a bit." But Henry was already decided. He went up the stairs and knocked on Leah's bedroom door. There was no answer. He opened it slowly. The girl was lying on the bed, her back to the door. "Can I come in?" Silence. "Leah, we need to talk about your behavior. You were very rude to Patricia." She didn't respond. "I know it's hard for you to have someone new living here. But Patricia is trying very hard. She likes you, wants to build a relationship. You need to give her a chance." Finally, Leah turned around. Her eyes were red. "You don't understand." "What don't I understand?" "She's not good. She pretends." Henry sighed, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Daughter, I know no one will replace your mother, and no one is trying to do that. But Patricia wants to be your friend. Why don't you let her?" "Because she changes when you're not here." "What?" "When you leave, she's different. She says things." "What kind of things?" Leah hesitated. Fear was visible in her eyes, and then, as if a wall had crumbled inside her, she started to cry. "She said if I tell, you won't believe me, and that you'll be sad. And I don't want you to be sad, Dad." Henry felt his heart clench. He pulled his daughter into a hug. "Leah, you can tell me anything, always." But even as he said it, a part of him doubted. Could a 6-year-old be confusing things, exaggerating? Children had vivid imaginations, and Patricia had been so perfect, so attentive. Could it be possible that she had such a different hidden face? "What did she say to you?" Leah sobbed against his chest. "That I'm bad, that I have to obey, that if I don't obey, things will get worse." "Worse how?" "I don't know. She doesn't explain. She just says, 'I'll regret it.'" Henry felt a mixture of anger and confusion. Could it be true? Or was it childish manipulation? He no longer knew what to believe. "I'll talk to her." "No," Leah clung to him. "Please don't tell her. She'll be angry." "Daughter, if what you're saying is true, I need to know." At that moment, Patricia knocked on the half-open door. "May I come in?" Henry nodded. Patricia entered with a tray of food. "I brought Leah's dinner. I thought it best for her to eat here, in a quieter environment." She placed the tray on the small table and looked at the girl tenderly. "I'm sorry if I said anything that upset you, darling. Sometimes we speak without thinking, but know that I only want what's best for you." Leah cringed further into her father's arms. Patricia sighed dramatically. "I'll let you two talk. Henry, when you're done, I'll be downstairs." She left, closing the door softly. Henry looked at his daughter. "See? She's worried about you." But Leah shook her head vehemently. "She's pretending. When you leave, she'll be mean again." Henry didn't know what to do. Part of him wanted to believe his daughter, but another part, the tired part, the part that desperately wanted things to be okay, resisted. "Let's do this. I'll stay home more this week. I'll observe. If I notice anything strange, we'll deal with it, okay?" Leah nodded, but her eyes said she had no hope. Meanwhile, outside the mansion, Luna watched everything through the illuminated bedroom window. She couldn't hear the conversation, but she saw the girl's despair. She saw the father's hug. She saw the blonde woman entering and leaving the room with that fake smile. Luna clutched her cell phone. She had some videos already recorded, but they weren't enough. She needed more. She needed something irrefutable, something that would show beyond any doubt what that woman was doing, and she suspected the worst was yet to come. People like that woman didn't stop. They always escalated. They always tested limits. Luna knew this from experience. Her mother had started with words. Then came the pinches, then the pushes, and finally the day Luna woke up in the hospital without remembering how she got there. She wouldn't let that happen to the girl in the window, not while she could do something, even if it meant risking everything. Henry tried to keep the promise he had made to his daughter. For the next few days he worked from home whenever possible, observed the interactions between Patricia and Leah, looked for signs of the behavior the girl had described, but he saw nothing. Patricia was patient, kind, offered help with homework, prepared healthy meals. Leah remained distant, but there was nothing explicitly wrong with her stepmother's attitudes. Gradually, Henry began to relax again. Maybe it really was just jealousy. Maybe Leah was having difficulty accepting the new family configuration and, in an attempt to push Patricia away, was making up stories. He wanted to believe his daughter, but the facts he saw did not support the accusations. One afternoon, Henry had to go to an urgent meeting in New York City. It would only be one day. He would return the next morning. Before leaving, he called Leah. "For a talk. I need to travel today, but I'll be back early tomorrow. Will you be okay?" Leah held his hand tightly. "No, Dad. Stay here." "Daughter, it's only one day, and Patricia is here." "That's exactly why." Henry sighed. The same old story. "Leah, we've talked about this. I haven't seen anything wrong with Patricia's behavior. She's been very nice to you." The girl let go of his hand. Defeated. She knew it was useless to insist. No one believed her. Maybe she really was exaggerating. Maybe it was all her imagination. "It's okay, Dad, you can go." Henry kissed her forehead and left. The driver was waiting for him at the door. As soon as the car disappeared down the street, Patricia, who had been watching from the living room window, turned to Leah with a smile that sent shivers down the girl's spine. "Finally alone. How about we have a little chat?" Leah took a step back. "I didn't do anything." "Of course not." Patricia approached slowly. You're a very well-behaved girl. But do you know what happens to girls who tell lies about people? They end up alone, no one believes them anymore, and your father is already starting to doubt you, haven't you noticed? Tears began to stream down Leah's face. I didn't lie. No. Then why did he go to work so calmly? Why didn't he stay here to protect you from me? Because he doesn't believe you, you foolish child. Leah wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't obey. Now go up to your room and stay there until I call you for dinner, and don't even think about coming out or doing anything silly. Understood? Leah nodded and ran upstairs, locking herself in her room. She threw herself on the bed and cried until she had no more tears. Patricia was right. Her father didn't believe her. No one believed her. She was alone. Outside, in the shadow of a tree, Luna witnessed the scene through the open living room window. The sound was muffled, but she read enough lips to understand the gist of the conversation. The woman had waited for the man to leave to show her true face, and the girl was completely helpless. Luna felt rage boil within her. She needed to act. But how? If she broke into the house, she would be arrested. If she called the police, what would she say? That she saw an argument through a window? That the woman spoke loudly to her stepdaughter? It wasn't a crime. There wasn't enough evidence. She needed more. She needed to catch something undeniable. Hours passed. Luna stayed there observing. She saw when Patricia went up to Leah's room to call her for dinner. She saw when they came down together to the kitchen. And then she saw something that made her heart pound. Patricia was preparing dinner. She picked up 2 plates and started serving. Pasta with sauce, but when it was Leah's turn to be served, she opened a cabinet and took out a jar. She read the label, and then with deliberate movements she took a spoon and spread something over the girl's food. Luna couldn't see exactly what it was, but the way the woman did it, quickly hiding the jar, looking over her shoulder to make sure she was alone, was suspicious. Luna took out her cell phone and started recording. The angle wasn't perfect, but you could see the woman furtively messing with Leah's plate. Then she called the girl for dinner. Leah came down the stairs, slowly, and sat at the table. Patricia placed the plate in front of her with a sweet smile. "Eat everything. I made it with special care for you." Leah looked at the food. Something about it didn't seem right. The smell was different. "I'm not hungry. I don't care, you're going to eat." "But I really don't want to." Patricia leaned over the table, her voice low and threatening. "Eat now, or I swear you'll regret it." Leah picked up the fork with a trembling hand. She put some of the pasta in her mouth. She chewed. And then her face began to change. Her eyes widened. Her breathing became difficult. "What's wrong?" Patricia asked, but there was something in her tone that wasn't surprise. It was expectation. Leah put her hand to her throat. It was starting to swell. Her breath whistled. She tried to get up, but stumbled. Patricia watched her, motionless. "Ah, you must be having some kind of reaction. How strange." But it wasn't strange. Patricia knew exactly what was happening. She had put peanut butter in Leah's food. She knew about the girl's severe allergy. She had kept that jar hidden for weeks, waiting for the right moment. And now, with Henry away and the house empty, it was the perfect opportunity. Leah fell from the chair, gasping. Her lips began to turn purple. Patricia calmly got up and went to the living room, picking up her phone. She dialed a number, but it wasn't emergency services. It was for a friend. "Hi, darling. Yes, I'm calling to confirm lunch tomorrow." While she chatted calmly, Leah writhed on the kitchen floor, struggling to breathe. Outside, Luna saw everything. She saw the girl choke. She saw her fall. She saw the woman ignoring her, talking on the phone as if nothing was happening. And then, without thinking, she acted. She ran to the back door. It was locked. She picked up a stone and broke the glass. The noise made Patricia drop the phone and run to see what it was. But Luna was already inside. She ran up the stairs 2 steps at a time, desperately searching for Leah's room. She knew allergic children often had emergency injections. She had to find it. She had to find it now. Patricia screamed, "Who's there? I'm calling the police!" But Luna didn't stop. She found the room. She rummaged through the bedside table, drawers, nothing. Then she saw the school backpack. She opened it with trembling hands. And there it was, a case with an adrenaline pen, an EpiPen. She grabbed it and ran downstairs. Patricia was in the hallway, holding a vase ready to attack. But Luna ignored her, running past her and straight to the kitchen. Leah was almost unconscious, her lips completely purple. Luna knelt beside her, removed the EpiPen cap and plunged the needle into the girl's thigh straight through her clothes, holding it for 10 seconds as she had seen in online videos some time ago. Then she tossed the device aside and turned Leah onto her side, wiping the foam that was forming at her mouth. Hold on, little girl. Breathe. Patricia appeared at the kitchen door, pale. She realized she had lost control of the situation. She picked up her phone and finally called emergency services. I need an ambulance, it's urgent. My stepdaughter is having a severe allergic reaction. Her voice was perfect, concerned, scared. The performance of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. Then she hung up and looked at Luna. Who are you? What are you doing in my house? Saving her from you. I don't know what you're talking about. Get out of here before I really call the police. Go ahead and call. I recorded everything. Patricia grew even paler. Luna held up her cell phone. I recorded you putting something in her food. I recorded you letting her die while you talked on the phone. So go ahead and call the police. I want them to come. The ambulance siren began to sound in the distance. Leah was starting to breathe better, the adrenaline taking effect. Luna remained by her side, holding her small hand. It's okay. You'll be fine. The paramedics arrived and took over. They asked questions. Patricia said it was a terrible accident, that she didn't know how peanuts had gotten into the food. Luna remained silent, just watching. She knew that if she spoke now without organized evidence, without the girl's father present, no one would believe her. She was just a street teenager against a rich, articulate woman. So she waited. She waited until they took Leah to the hospital. And then she left through the same broken window she had entered, taking with her the cell phone with all the recordings. She needed to find a way to get that into the right hands. Henry was in the middle of a presentation when his phone vibrated in his pocket. He ignored it the first time. The second time, he excused himself and answered. The voice on the other end was Patricia's, but it sounded different. Trembling, scared. Henry, you need to come now. It's Leah. She's at the hospital. What? What happened? She had an allergic reaction. Very severe. I don't know how, but there was peanut in her food. I swear I didn't. No. It was a horrible oversight. Please, come quickly. Henry didn't wait to hear anything else. He hung up, grabbed his things, and rushed to the airport. He managed to board the next flight, but the 2 hours to Austin, Texas seemed like an eternity. Throughout the journey, his mind raced. Peanuts. He was absolutely certain there was nothing with peanuts in the house. It was an inflexible rule. Everyone knew about Leah's severe allergy. How had this happened? When he finally arrived at the hospital, Patricia was in the waiting room. She ran to hug him, tears streaming down. Her perfectly made-up face. I'm sorry, so sorry, it was my fault. What exactly happened? I was preparing dinner. I got a new recipe from the internet. I didn't realize it had peanut butter in the sauce. It was so fast. She started choking and I panicked. I called an ambulance, but she was already turning purple when they arrived. And how is she now? Stable. The doctors said she was saved because someone administered adrenaline in time. Someone? Who? Patricia hesitated. A girl. A teenager who broke into the house, broke the window, came in, took the EpiPen, and administered it to Leah. Then she fled before the ambulance arrived. Henry tried to process that information. A stranger saved my daughter? Yes. I have no idea who she was. She was dirty, looked like she lived on the streets. But if it weren't for her, Henry... Her words died in her throat. Henry felt his legs weaken. He sat in one of the waiting room chairs, his head in his hands. He almost lost his daughter, because of a stupid oversight, because of a misread recipe. But there was something strange about that story, something that didn't fit. You said you panicked, but the EpiPen was in her room, wasn't it? It was. I went to get it, but I was so desperate I couldn't find it. The girl was faster. Why didn't you call emergency services first? I did. I called as soon as I realized what was happening. But Henry was sure there was something wrong with that account. He had known Patricia for months. She wasn't the type of person who panicked. She was calculating, organized, always in control. So why hadn't she been able to find medication that was in an obvious place? Why hadn't she helped Leah immediately? Can I see my daughter? Yes, she's awake. Room 312. Henry went up to the room. Leah was lying in the hospital bed, pale, with an oxygen mask. Seeing her father, her eyes filled with tears. Dad. He approached and held her hand. I'm here, sweetie. It's all right now. It's not. Leah tried to remove the mask, but the nurse asked her to leave it. She spoke through the plastic, her voice muffled. She did it on purpose. Who? Patricia. She put peanut in my food on purpose. I saw it. And then she left me there, dying. It was the girl who saved me. Henry felt a chill down his spine. Leah, are you sure about what you're saying? I am. I saw her take the paste. I saw her put it on my plate. And when I fell, she just watched. She even called someone and kept talking while I couldn't breathe. A nurse entered the room to check vital signs. Henry stepped away, his mind racing. Could it be possible? Could it really be possible that Patricia had tried to do that? But why? What reason would she have? He left the room and went to the reception. He asked to speak with the attending physician. Dr. Reynolds met him in the hallway. Doctor, my daughter, how is she really? She was very lucky. A few more minutes, and we would have had an irreversible situation. Whoever administered the adrenaline acted at the exact right moment. And who was this person? We don't know. A teenager. She appeared, performed the procedure, and disappeared. The security guards tried to hold her, but she was fast. Henry thought. He needed to find that girl. She was the only witness to what had really happened. He returned to the waiting room. Patricia was on her phone. Seeing him, she stood up quickly. How is she? Fine. But I need to talk to you. Of course. Shall we go somewhere more private? No, here is fine. Henry crossed his arms. Leah told me you put peanut in her food on purpose. Patricia's eyes widened, her expression of shock perfect. What? Henry? She's delirious. Did she hit her head? Lack of oxygen can cause confusion. She seemed very lucid when she spoke to me. She's a scared child who almost went through a terrible experience. She's looking for someone to blame, and I'm the easy target because she never accepted me. Henry wanted to believe her, he really did. But the seed of doubt had been planted. Why didn't you help her immediately? I did help. I called an ambulance. But you didn't administer the adrenaline. You didn't go get the EpiPen. I did. But I was so nervous I couldn't find it. Are you accusing me of something, Henry? I'm trying to understand what happened. What happened was that your daughter almost went through something terrible because of my mistake. An honest mistake. And instead of supporting me, you're accusing me of attempted murder? Is that it? Tears were streaming now, but Henry noticed her eyes remained dry. It was crying without real tears. Technical, rehearsed. I need some time to think. Of course, I'm going home. Call me when you're ready to talk like civilized adults. She grabbed her purse and left, her heels echoing in the hospital corridor. Henry stood there, lost. He no longer knew whom to trust, or what to believe. It was then that a nursing assistant approached. Mr. Alistair? Yes? A girl came by earlier. She tried to enter your daughter's room, but security stopped her. She left this with me and asked me to give it to you. The woman handed him a small plastic bag. Inside was a flash drive and a crumpled note. Henry opened the paper. The handwriting was shaky, from someone who didn't have much practice writing. She's lying. Watch the videos. Luna. Henry put the flash drive in his pocket. He needed to see it, but not there. He went to his car, grabbed the laptop he always carried, and sat in the parking lot. He connected the device and opened the files. There were 5 videos. The first showed Patricia in the kitchen yelling at Leah. The audio wasn't clear, but the aggression in her gestures was visible. The second showed her holding Leah's arm tightly, leaving marks. The third was in the living room, Patricia pointing her finger in the girl's face while she cried. But it was the fourth video that sent a chill down Henry's spine. Patricia in the kitchen, alone, taking a jar from the cabinet, reading the label. It was peanut butter. She opened the jar, took a spoon and spread it generously over the pasta on one of the plates. Then she quickly put the jar away and called Leah for dinner. It was premeditated. She had planned it. The fifth video showed Leah eating, starting to choke, falling from the chair. And Patricia, instead of helping, picking up her phone and making a casual call, chatting calmly while her stepdaughter suffocated on the floor. Henry felt bile rise. He felt sick. He opened the car door and vomited. When he managed to compose himself, he called the only person he still trusted. Carla Redmond, a detective with the Austin Police Department and an old college. "Friend, Carla, I need you. Now it's urgent." She arrived in 20 minutes. Henry showed her the videos. Carla watched in silence, her face growing increasingly serious. "Henry, this is serious. Very serious. I'm opening an immediate investigation." "There's more." Henry took a deep breath. "I need to find the girl who made these recordings. She saved my daughter, and she's probably the only direct witness to all of this." "What does she look like?" "Teenager. Looked like she lived on the streets. Her name is Luna, according to the note." Carla made some notes. "I'll put my team on it, and as for Patricia, I'll request a search and seizure warrant for your house. We need more evidence. She lives with me. Then it will be easier. I'll need you to authorize me to search the residence. I authorize everything. I just want justice." Henry returned to Leah's room. The girl was sleeping, finally at peace. He sat beside the bed and held her small hand. "I'm sorry, sweetie. I'm sorry I didn't believe you. But now I know the truth, and I'm going to fix this, I promise." Carla Redmond's investigation was swift and precise. The search of the Alastair mansion revealed things Henry would never have imagined. In the guest room, Patricia occupied, hidden at the back of a drawer, there was a complete dossier on him. Newspaper clippings, information about his assets, even old photos of Lauren. It was as if she had meticulously studied his life before approaching him, but the most disturbing thing was in a box stored in the closet. Documents with false names, marriage certificates from 2 previous relationships, and even more shocking, news clippings about domestic accidents involving children, a girl who had drowned in her home pool, another who suffered a severe fall down the stairs. Both daughters of wealthy widowers whom Patricia, or whatever her real name was, had seduced. Carla showed everything to Henry in a private room at the police station. "She's a serial criminal. She specifically targets widowers with children. The pattern is always the same. She seduces the man, eliminates the child who is seen as an obstacle, inherits the assets." Henry couldn't believe it. But why wasn't she arrested before? Because she's extremely careful. The accidents always seemed genuine. There was no direct evidence, and in both previous cases she disappeared before deeper investigations could be conducted. And now? Now we have the videos. We have clear premeditation. We have aggravated attempted murder. She won't escape this time. Patricia was arrested 3 days later, trying to board a flight abroad using false documents. When police approached her at the airport, she remained calm, her polite smile the demeanor of someone who had nothing to fear. But when she saw the handcuffs, something changed in her face. The mask finally fell. Meanwhile, Henry focused all his energy on finding Luna. He hired private investigators, publicized the story in the media, hoping someone would recognize her and come forward. The narrative of a street girl who saved the daughter of a rich businessman quickly went viral. Television stations wanted interviews, newspapers splashed the headline. But Luna remained invisible. Until a week later, one of the investigators located her. She was sheltered in an abandoned warehouse in the industrial district, sick and malnourished. When Henry arrived at the scene accompanied by a social worker, Luna tried to flee. "Wait!" he shouted. "I won't hurt you. I just want to talk." Luna stopped, leaning against the wall, her body tense like that of a cornered animal. "Are you Luna? The girl who saved my daughter?" She nodded slightly. Henry approached slowly, his hands in plain sight to show he posed no threat. "I came here to thank you. and to offer you help. I don't need anyone's help. Yes, you do. You're sick, and if it weren't for you, I would have lost my daughter. Let me repay you." Luna stared at him with suspicion. She was used to empty promises from adults, but there was something in that man's eyes, sincerity, genuine gratitude. "What do you want from me?" "I want to give you a home. I want you to have the same opportunities my daughter has. Education, health, safety. You saved the most precious thing I have. It's the least I can do." Luna shook her head. "People like me don't do well in places like yours." "Why not?" "Because it never works. I've tried before. There's always a reason for them to send me away in the end. With me, it will be different. I promise." "Don't promise what you can't keep." Henry knelt to her height. "I failed my daughter. I didn't see what was happening right under my nose, but you did. You acted. You were brave when I was a coward. Let me fix my mistakes. Let me be better, for her and for you." Luna felt something break inside her, a defense she had held up for years. She allowed them to take her to the hospital. They treated the pneumonia she was developing, fed her properly, took care of the injuries she had accumulated on the streets, and when she was finally discharged, Henry was there waiting. The house was the same, but it felt different without Patricia's presence. Lighter, safer. Leah, who had already been discharged from the hospital, was in the living room when Luna entered. The two girls looked at each other, and then Leah did something that surprised everyone. She ran and hugged Luna. "Thank you for saving me." Luna stiffened in the embrace, not knowing how to react. She wasn't used to affection, but gradually she allowed herself to reciprocate, her arms timidly wrapping around the little girl. "You're welcome." In the months that followed, life in the Alastair mansion took on a new form. Henry resigned as CEO of the company, appointing a competent successor and remaining only as the majority shareholder. He decided that no professional success was worth more than being present for his daughters. Yes, daughters, because that's how he was beginning to see Luna, not as an obligation or a debt to be paid, but as part of the family. Luna, however, took time to trust. She constantly tested limits, waiting for him to give up, to send her away. But Henry didn't give up. He hired psychologists specializing in trauma, enrolled her in a good school, respected her space when she needed to be alone. And gradually, very gradually, the wall she had built began to crumble. Leah found an ally in Luna, someone who understood fear, loneliness, the feeling of not being heard. The two began to share secrets, games, complicity. Luna taught her things from the streets, how to read people, how to trust her instincts. Leah taught her things from school, helped with homework, shared her favorite books. Patricia's trial attracted national attention. The evidence was overwhelming. In addition to the videos Luna had recorded, the investigation uncovered her communications with suspicious individuals, strange financial movements, and even confessions accidentally recorded on her own cell phone, where she planned her next steps after Leah's supposed accident. The prosecutor built a solid case of premeditation, multiple identities, and a criminal history spanning 3 states. During the trial, Patricia maintained her composure. She denied everything, claimed the videos had been manipulated, that she was a victim of a conspiracy. But when Luna was called to testify, something changed. The teenager, wearing simple but clean clothes, her hair cut and styled, walked to the witness stand with a determination that impressed everyone. She told everything, every detail she had observed during the weeks she watched the house, every muffled scream she had heard, every time she had seen Patricia treat Leah cruelly when she thought no one was looking. And finally, the moment she saw the woman put peanuts in the girl's food and then ignore her as she suffocated. The defense tried to discredit her, painting her as an intruder, a criminal who was merely seeking money. But Luna did not back down. She answered every question with brutal honesty, without trying to embellish her own story, without pretending to be more than she was. And it was precisely this authenticity that convinced the jury. Patricia was sentenced to 15 years in prison for aggravated attempted murder, child abuse, use of false documents, and fraud. When the sentence was read, she finally lost her composure. She screamed, accused Henry of ruining her life, threatened Luna. She had to be restrained by security guards as she was removed from the courtroom. Henry watched everything in silence, Leah and Luna by his side. When they left the courthouse, photographers were waiting, but he didn't want to give interviews. He just took the girls home. That night, while preparing dinner, something he now made a point of doing personally, Henry looked at Leah and Luna sitting at the kitchen table, chatting animatedly about a school project. And for the first time in years, he felt something he had forgotten. Peace. But he knew there was still much work ahead. Leah still had nightmares. She woke up in the middle of the night screaming, thinking Patricia was there. Therapy helped, but the healing process would be long. Luna also had her demons. Moments when she completely shut down, days when she couldn't trust anyone, times when she threatened to run away because she was sure she would be sent away. Henry learned to deal with all this. He learned that being a father wasn't just about providing financially, but about being present in difficult moments. It was holding Leah's hand when she woke up crying. It was respecting Luna's silence when she needed to process her emotions alone. It was showing, day after day, that they were unconditionally loved. And little by little the house filled with laughter again. Birthday parties, family dinners, lazy Sunday mornings, small moments that, added together, formed a life. Henry also transformed part of the mansion into a welcoming space for at-risk children. There were weekly activities, workshops, tutoring, psychological support. Luna actively helped, using her own experience to connect with the scared and suspicious young people who arrived there. She saw in these faces the reflection of what she herself once was, and she wanted to offer them what she almost didn't have: hope. A year after the trial, on a sunny Saturday morning, Henry called Luna for a talk in the library. She entered nervously, always expecting bad news, but Henry merely showed her some papers on the table. "What is this?" Luna picked up the documents. They were permanent guardianship papers. He was formalizing the adoption. "I don't understand." "You are already part of this family, Luna. You always have been since the day you decided to save my daughter, but I wanted to make it official. If you want to, of course. I won't force you to do anything." Luna read the documents with tear-filled eyes. No one had ever wanted to be permanently responsible for her. It was always temporary, always with an expiration date. But this was different. This was forever. "Why would you do this for me?" "Because you deserve it, and because I want to. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to pretend to be someone you're not. You just need to be here. That's enough." Luna couldn't hold back her tears. Years of pain, abandonment, rejection, finally finding a place of healing. "I accept." Henry stood up and hugged her, a father's hug, of protection, of belonging. "Welcome officially to the family, Luna." When they told Leah, the girl jumped for joy. "You're going to be my real sister." "Always have been," Luna replied, smiling. And that night, dining together in the kitchen that no longer carried bad memories, but instead the promise of a new beginning, the three formed an imperfect but genuine picture of a family. It wasn't the traditional family Henry had imagined when he married Lauren. It wasn't the family Leah had known in her early years, and it certainly wasn't the family Luna had ever dared to dream of. But it was theirs, built on ruins, erected amidst pain, but solid, because it was founded on something none of the previous versions had: truth. The truth that families weren't perfect, that parents made mistakes, that children needed to be heard, and that sometimes salvation came from the most improbable places. Henry looked at the girls and realized he had spent years chasing success, recognition, a legacy for the world. But the true legacy was right there, in those two chairs, in those two pairs of eyes that finally shone with hope. And for the first time since Lauren left, he felt he was on the right path. Not the path of easy success or ready answers, but the difficult, honest, and true path of rebuilding, of healing, of loving. 3 years had passed since Patricia's trial. The Alastair mansion, once a stage for so much silent suffering, now breathed a completely different atmosphere. The walls that witnessed hidden tears and unverbalized fears now echoed with genuine laughter, animated conversations during breakfast, and the comforting sound of a family that had finally learned to communicate. Luna was 18 now. Her hair, once disheveled and dirty, fell in well-maintained brown waves over her shoulders. Her eyes, which carried that characteristic distrust of someone who had lived on the streets, still held a spark of caution, but now also shone with something new: purpose. She was in her final year of high school, with grades that surprised even the most demanding teachers, but what truly defined her wasn't the numbers on her tests, but the volunteer work she did 3 times a week at the project Henry had created. The New Beginnings Center, as it was named, occupied an entire wing of the mansion that had been specifically renovated for this purpose. There, at-risk children and adolescents found not only warm meals and a safe place, but also listening, acceptance, and the chance to believe that their stories didn't have to end on the streets. One Thursday afternoon, Luna was sitting in one of the project's rooms, talking to Julian, a 13-year-old boy who had arrived 2 weeks ago. He was aloof, answered in monosyllables, and refused to participate in group activities. Luna recognized each of these signs. It was like looking into a mirror of the past. "You don't have to trust me now," she said, her voice calm and non-judgmental. "I didn't trust anyone when I got here either." Julian looked at her sideways, his arms crossed defensively. "You lived here? In this mansion?" "Not always. I spent 3 years on the streets before. I know what it's like to wake up not knowing if you'll eat that day. I know what it's like to sleep with one eye open, because any noise could mean danger." The boy slightly relaxed his shoulders. "And why did you come back to this kind of place, I mean? If you managed to get out, why didn't you forget everything?" Luna thought for a moment before answering. "Because someone didn't forget me when I needed it most. And because I know there are a lot of people like you and me who just need a chance. One person who believes. A place that's truly safe." Julian was silent, processing. After a few minutes, he asked, "And does it hurt to trust again after everything?" Luna smiled with a sadness that only those who had lived it could understand. "It hurts, but it hurts less than being alone forever." Meanwhile, upstairs, Leah was in her room doing homework. At 9 years old, she was a completely different girl from the scared and silent child of 3 years ago. She still had her difficult moments, especially when something reminded her of Patricia, but weekly therapy with Dr. Felicity had done wonders. She had learned to name her fears, to talk about what she felt, to understand that what happened was not her fault. The bedroom door opened and Henry entered, carrying a tray with juice and cookies. "Mandatory break for the most dedicated student in the house." Leah smiled and closed her notebook. "Thanks, Dad, but Luna is more dedicated than me." Henry sat on the edge of the bed. "You two are amazing, each in your own way, and I'm very lucky to be your father." Leah took a cookie and bit into it thoughtfully. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you still think about her? About Patricia?" Henry sighed. He hadn't expected that question, but he wasn't going to lie to his daughter. "Sometimes, not with longing, but thinking about how blind I was, how I didn't notice what was happening right under my nose. You were working a lot. It's no excuse. My job was to protect you, and I failed at that." Leah placed her small hand over her father's. "But you fixed it, and now you're here. Always here." Henry felt his eyes sting. That little girl, who had been through so much, had a capacity for forgiveness that humbled him. "And I'll continue to be. I promise." "I know." Leah smiled. "You don't break your promises anymore." They stayed there for a few minutes, just enjoying each other's company. Then Leah asked, "Is Luna really going to college next year?" "If all goes well, yes. She passed the entrance exam for psychology. She wants to work with at-risk children. She'll be great at it. She will." "Dad?" "Yes?" "I'm glad she stayed, that you didn't let her go." Henry hugged his daughter. "Me too, sweetie. Me too." That night, during dinner, the three were sitting at the table when Henry's phone rang. It was Carla Redmond, the detective who had led the investigation against Patricia. he answered, putting it on speaker with the girl's silent permission. "Henry, I need to inform you about something." "Go ahead, Carla." "Patricia has filed a petition for sentence reduction. She cited good behavior and participation in rehabilitation programs." The silence that followed was heavy. Luna and Leah exchanged worried glances. "And what's the chance of it being approved?" "Small, but it exists. The hearing is scheduled for 3 weeks from now. You have the right to present victim impact statements if you wish." Henry looked at his daughters. "I'll think about it and get back to you." "Of course. Call me if you need anything." He hung up and stared at his plate, the food suddenly tasteless. "She can get out?" Leah asked, her voice small. "I don't know, daughter, but even if she gets a reduction, she'll still be in prison for many years." Luna, who had been silent until then, spoke. "I want to make a statement." Henry looked at her, surprised. "Are you sure? You'll have to see her again." "I know, but I need to do this. Not for her, but for me, and for all the children she hurt before Leah." Leah also spoke up. "I want to too." Henry felt his chest tighten with pride and fear at the same time. His girls were brave, but he didn't want them to go through that again. "You don't have to force yourselves. I can make the statement for you." But Luna shook her head. "No, Dad." Her voice was firm. "My whole life other people spoke for me, decided for me. Now I have a voice, and I'm going to use it." Leah agreed. "Me too. She doesn't scare me anymore. Not like before." Henry looked at the two of them, seeing not the fragile children who needed constant protection, but strong young women who were learning to fight their own battles. "All right, we'll do this together." The following 3 weeks were filled with emotional preparation. Dr. Felicity intensified sessions with Leah, helping her process what it would mean to see Patricia again. Luna, for her part, spent hours writing and rewriting her statement, wanting every word to carry the exact weight of what she wanted to say. Henry also prepared himself. He spoke with lawyers, reviewed all case documents, ensured that nothing would be left to chance. But no matter how much he prepared professionally, emotionally it was another story. The idea of being in the same room as that woman again made his stomach churn. The night before the hearing, Luna couldn't sleep. She got out of bed and went down to the kitchen, thinking of making some tea. She found Henry already there, sitting at the table with a cup of cold coffee in front of him. "Can't you sleep either?" she asked. Henry smiled tiredly. "Not really. And you?" "Mine's too busy." Luna sat beside him. "Can I ask you a question?" "Of course." "Are you afraid of tomorrow?" Henry thought before answering. "I am. Not of her, but of what she can still represent, what she might awaken in both of you." Luna nodded. "I'm scared too. But do you know what helps me?" "What?" "Remembering that this time I'm not alone. I have you. I have Leah. I have Dr. Felicity. I have a home to come back to. She can't take that from me." Henry held her hand. "She can't. And I'll be by your side the whole time. You two won't face this alone." They stayed there for another hour, talking about random things, avoiding the topic of the hearing, just enjoying each other's company. When they finally went up to sleep, both felt a little lighter. The morning of the hearing dawned cloudy. Henry woke up early and prepared a hearty breakfast, knowing they would all need energy. Leah came downstairs already dressed, wearing a navy blue dress Henry had never seen. "Dr. Felicity helped me choose it," she explained. "She said it was important for me to feel strong today." "And do you feel strong?" Leah thought for a moment. "I'm nervous, but I'm also ready." Luna appeared soon after, wearing jeans and a simple white blouse. In her hand she carried a notebook where she had written her statement. The drive to the courthouse was silent. Henry drove, his hands firm on the wheel, but his jaw tense. Luna looked out the window, watching the city pass by. Leah held a small teddy bear that Dr. Felicity had given her, a comfort object for difficult moments. When they arrived, Carla Redmond was waiting for them at the entrance. She greeted each one with a comforting hug. "Are you ready?" All three nodded. "Then let's go. Remember, You have every right to be here. You are the victims. She is the criminal. The courtroom was smaller than Henry remembered, or perhaps it was just anxiety distorting his perception. They sat in the chairs designated for victims. On the other side of the room, separated by guards, was Patricia. She had changed. Her blonde hair was shorter without its former shine. Her face, once always perfectly made up, was pale and marked. But her eyes, those cold eyes Luna had seen through the windows, remained the same. When Patricia looked at them, Leah instinctively flinched. Luna, however, held her gaze. Not with anger, but with a firmness that said, "You no longer have power over me." The hearing began. Patricia's lawyer presented arguments about her good behavior in prison, about the courses she had taken, about the remorse she claimed to feel. He spoke about rehabilitation, about second chances, about how the prison system should focus on rehabilitation. Henry listened to everything with growing irritation. That man spoke as if Patricia were a victim of circumstances, not a calculating predator who had tried to kill a child. Then it was time for the impact statements. The judge called Henry first. He stood up, took a deep breath and began. "Your Honor, 3 years ago I almost lost my daughter, not due to an accident, not due to an illness, but because a woman, whom I trusted, whom I brought into my home, deliberately put a substance she knew to be lethal for an allergic child into her food, and then watched as my daughter suffocated." His voice was firm, but laden with emotion. "Patricia Moore, or whatever her real name is, does not deserve a reduced sentence. She does not deserve a second chance. Because she did not give my daughter a second chance, she did not give a chance to the other children who were her victims before. She is a predator, and predators do not change. They merely wait for the next opportunity." He returned to his seat. Luna was next. She stood up, the notebook trembling slightly in her hands. She walked to the microphone and began to read, "My name is Luna Oliver Alistair. I am 18 years old. I spent 3 years of my life on the streets because running away seemed safer than staying home. I know what it's like to be afraid. I know what it's like not to have a voice. I know what it's like to be invisible." She looked up from the paper and directly at Patricia. "But I also know what it's like to have courage. I saw a little girl being hurt. I saw a woman who pretended to be good in front of others, but was cruel when no one was looking. And I could have ignored it. I could have thought it wasn't my problem. But I didn't ignore it. Because I knew that if no one did anything, that little girl would die." Her voice grew stronger. "Patricia Moore tried to kill Leah. That's not opinion, it's fact, it's recorded, it's documented. And she didn't do it in a moment of anger or despair. She planned it, she waited for the right moment, and she executed it coldly. This is not the behavior of someone who deserves a reduced sentence. It is the behavior of someone who needs to be kept away from children for as long as possible." Luna returned to her seat, her hands still trembling, but her face determined. Then it was Leah's turn. The girl stood up slowly. Henry held her hand for a moment before letting go. Leah walked to the microphone. She had to stand on a small stool to reach it. When she began to speak, her voice was small but clear. "My name is Leah Alistair. I am 9 years old. When I was 6, a woman tried to kill me." She took a deep breath. "I remember everything. I remember her being mean to me when my dad wasn't there. I remember being afraid to speak because she said no one would believe me. And she was right. At first, even my dad doubted." Tears began to stream, but she continued. "I remember not being able to breathe, feeling my throat closing, falling to the floor and seeing her just watching, not helping, not calling emergency services, just watching." Leah looked at Patricia for the first time. "You wanted me to die, and if it wasn't for Luna, I would have died. So no, you don't deserve to get out early. You deserve to stay there until you serve every day of your sentence, because there are other girls out there, and they need to be safe from you." She got off the stool and ran back into Henry's arms, who hugged her tightly. Patricia's lawyer tried to object, talking about how children were easily influenced, how memories could be distorted. But the judge interrupted him. "Counselor, there is video evidence, there is medical documentation, there is an extensive criminal history. We are not talking about distorted memories, we are talking about facts." He turned to Patricia. "Do you have anything to say?" Patricia stood up, and for the first time, the mask fell completely. There was no longer the elegant, controlled woman. There was only rage. That spoiled child had everything, everything, and still couldn't be grateful, couldn't accept me. I tried to be good. I tried to build a relationship, but she constantly rejected me. The judge tried to interrupt her, but she continued, her voice growing louder. "And that man," she pointed at Henry, "was so obsessed with work that he didn't even notice what was happening in his own house. I could have been good for him. I could have been the perfect family. But that child ruined everything." Absolute silence filled the room. Even Patricia's lawyer was pale. The judge banged his gavel. "I have heard enough. The petition for sentence reduction is denied. You will serve the full sentence, and I recommend immediate psychiatric evaluation." Patricia was led away screaming by the guards, still blaming Leah, blaming Henry, blaming everyone but herself. When they left the courthouse, the sun had finally broken through the clouds. Henry hugged the two girls right there on the sidewalk. "You were incredible, so brave." Luna wiped her tears. "It's over. It's really over." Leah nodded against her father's chest. "Can I stop being scared now?" Henry kissed the top of her head. "You can, sweetie, you can stop being scared." In the months that followed, something changed in the family. Dynamic. It was as if that hearing had definitively closed a chapter. The girls still had their difficult moments, but they were less and less frequent. Leah smiled more easily again. Luna allowed herself to make plans for the future without the constant fear that everything would collapse. The New Beginning Center grew. More volunteers joined. More children were helped. Julian, the aloof boy Luna had welcomed, was now one of the most active participants, helping newcomers adapt. Luna was accepted into university with a full scholarship. The day she received the news, she ran to show Henry, who was in his office. Dad, look!" She was still surprised when the word came out naturally. Dad, not Henry, Dad. He read the acceptance letter and hugged her tightly. "I always knew you could do it. I wouldn't have without you, without this family." Henry felt his eyes well up. "You would have. Maybe by a different path, but you would have. You are one of the strongest people I know." That night, they had a small celebration. Just the three of them, with a cake Leah insisted on helping to make, and which was a bit crooked but delicious. They sat on the porch looking at the stars. "Luna," Leah asked, "when you go to college, will you still live here?" "Of course. The university is right here in Austin. I'm not going anywhere." "That's good." Leah snuggled beside her. "Because I would miss you a lot." "I'd miss you too, little rascal." They laughed. Henry watched the two of them, his heart overflowing with gratitude. These girls, who had been through so much, who had every reason to be bitter and withdrawn, chose hope every day. They chose to believe, they chose to love. "You know," he said, breaking the comfortable silence, "I spent years thinking that success was having money, recognition, power. I built an empire thinking that was what mattered." He looked at his daughters. "But I was wrong. This here, you two, this family we built together, this is success, this is what matters." Luna rested her head on his shoulder. "You know you saved my life, right? Not just that day, but every day since." Henry shook his head. "You saved yourself. I just gave you the tools." "No. You gave me a family. You gave me a place to belong. You gave me a chance to be more than my past." Leah joined the hug. "And you taught me that it's okay to be scared, that it's okay to need help, that I don't have to be strong alone." Henry hugged the two of them tightly, finally allowing himself to feel the weight of everything they had overcome together. Tears flowed freely now, but they were tears of relief, of gratitude, of love. "I love you both more than words can express." "We love you too, Dad," they replied in unison. They stayed there for hours, just enjoying each other's company, watching the stars, making plans for the future. A future that for the first time in a long time seemed bright and full of possibilities. Because they had learned the most important lesson. Family wasn't about perfection. It was about presence. It was about choosing to stay even when it was difficult. It was about believing in each other, even when the world told them to give up. And as the stars shone above them, three hearts that had been broken in different ways found healing together. Not a complete cure without scars, but a real, honest cure that acknowledged the pain of the past while choosing the hope of the future. Henry looked at Luna, the street girl who had become his daughter, who had chosen courage when it would have been easier to ignore. He looked at Leah, his little girl who had survived the unimaginable and yet chose to trust. And he realized that they weren't just his daughters, they were his teachers. They taught him about resilience, about forgiveness, about the true meaning of family. The next day, Luna returned to the New Beginning Center. Julian was waiting for her with a drawing he had made. It was a house with 3 figures at the door, one tall, 2 smaller. "It's us," he explained shyly. "You, Mr. Henry, and Leah." Luna felt her heart clench. "It's beautiful, Julian. Can I keep it?" The boy nodded, smiling. And then, for the first time since he arrived, he asked a personal question. "Is it true you also lived on the streets?" "It's true. And now you have a real family." "I do. And do you know what I learned? That family isn't just about blood. It's about who chooses to stay, who chooses to believe in you, who chooses to love you even knowing all your broken parts." Julian processed that. "Do you think I can have that too someday?" Luna knelt to his height, holding his shoulders. "I don't think so. I'm sure of it, because you deserve it. Just like I deserved it. Just like every child who comes through here deserves it." She pointed to the drawing. "Keep this. And when you're scared, when you think you can't do it, look at it. And remember that there is hope. That there are good people in the world. That you're not alone." Julian hugged the drawing to his chest and nodded. Luna saw in him the reflection of what she herself once was, and she knew she was exactly where she was supposed to be, doing exactly what she was supposed to do, because scars didn't disappear, but they could bloom. They could transform into strength. They could become the foundation upon which something new and beautiful was built. And while Luna worked with the children, while Henry conducted a planning meeting to expand the project, while Leah drew in a corner of the room surrounded by other children who finally accepted her, the Alastair mansion pulsed with life. It wasn't the perfect life Henry had imagined when he married Lauren. It wasn't the life Luna had dreamed of when she still had a family. It wasn't the life Leah had known before Patricia. It was better, because it was real. It was honest. It was built on truth, on communication, on the daily choice to be present. And in the end, that's what mattered. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of love. Not the lack of scars, but the courage to let them bloom. The story of the Alastair family was not a fairy tale. It was better than that. It was a real story of real people who chose day after day hope over despair, connection over isolation, love over fear. And as the sun set over Austin, Texas, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, 3 hearts beat in sync within that mansion. 3 stories that intertwined in unexpected ways. 3 lives that were saved not by a grand heroic gesture, but by small daily choices of presence, of listening, of love. Henry, Luna, and Leah. Father and daughters. Not by blood, but by choice. And that choice, renewed every day, was what transformed a house into a home, what transformed strangers into family, what transformed scars into flowers. And so, life continued, with its challenges, with its joys, with its moments of doubt and its moments of absolute certainty, but always, always with the certainty that they were not alone, that they had each other, and that this in the end was all that truly mattered.